Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our channel where we share with you the most amazing and shocking stories from all around the world. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any new stories. As you already know, police officers are held to a higher standard than your average citizen. They have more training than most people, and they also have access to more resources than most citizens. The police are expected to be role models in society and uphold the law at all times. However, every now and then, one of their own breaks the law or does something that makes them look bad. And this is exactly what happened in the story we will be discussing today. A group of cops pulled over an old man for imitating a police car, but when they approached his vehicle, they were shocked beyond belief. The man turned out to be someone they had all been taught by years ago. Now they were the ones who had to answer to him. The old man had been driving his 1968 Ford Mustang, which he had customized to look like a police car. It wasn't just a regular imitation either. He had put a lot of effort into making it as realistic as possible. He had added flashing lights and sirens and even a police badge. So imagine their surprise when they realized that it was all just a big prank. But it wasn't just any old man they had pulled over. It was the former chief of police, a man who had trained many of the officers who were now standing in front of him. He had retired several years ago, but his presence was still felt in the department. The story of how the cops were shocked when they realized who they had pulled over is one that has become quite popular. People love hearing about stories where the roles are reversed and the powerful are made to feel powerless. In this case, the cops got a taste of their own medicine when they were confronted by a former chief who they had once looked up to. When the officers first approached the old man's car, they were suspicious and ready for anything. After all, they had received reports of a fake police car driving around town, and they were determined to find the person responsible. But when they saw who it was, their demeanor changed immediately. They knew that they had made a mistake and they had to make things right. In the end, the former chief was understanding and let the officers off with a warning. He knew that they had only done their job and were following procedure. But the incident left a lasting impression on them, and it reminded them that even the most powerful people are not above the law. We often see stories like this where young officers learn a valuable lesson from their elders. This is a great way to teach new people about life and help them avoid making the same mistakes. In this case, the former chief was able to show the officers that it's important to be respectful to everyone, no matter what their age or status. Now let's get back to the story. The story of the cops who pulled over an old man's car and were shocked when they learned he was the retired chief of police is a funny and light-hearted tale that has been passed down through generations of law enforcement officers. It's a reminder that even the most respected members of society can be pranked, and that it's important to keep a sense of humor when dealing with difficult situations. Imagine the scene. A group of young, eager police officers cruising through the city in their squad car. When suddenly they spot a car in front of them imitating a police vehicle. Lights flashing, siren blaring, the officers decide to pull over the imposter and teach them a lesson about playing police. But when they approach the car and shine their flashlight through the window, they are shocked to see an old, retired chief of police behind the wheel. Years ago, the chief had been known for his sense of humor and his ability to pull off elaborate pranks on his unsuspecting colleagues, and it seems he hasn't lost his touch. The officers, on the other hand, are mortified. They have been taught by the chief, and they know that he would never approve of their actions. With their tails between their legs, the officers return to their squad car and radio in the license plate number of the fake police car. As they wait for backup, they try to come up with a plan to explain the situation to their chief. But before they can come up with anything, the chief himself appears in another squad car. The officers are stunned and stammer out an explanation, but the chief cuts them off and says, "I know what's going on here. Let's just have some fun with it." And with that, he turns on his flashing lights and radios in the other officers. "Copy that, 114. I'm initiating a traffic stop." Repeat, "I'm initiating a traffic stop." The officers respond with a mix of confusion and amusement. They can't believe that their chief is playing along, but they have to admit that it's kind of fun. They follow the chief's instructions and pull the fake police car over to the side of the road. The old man behind the wheel looks confused, but he complies and parks his car. When the chief approaches the old man's window, he leans in and says, "License and registration, please." The old man looks at the chief, and then at the flashing lights on his own car. He slowly reaches for his wallet and pulls out his driver's license and registration. The chief looks at the license and then at the old man and says, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" The old man looks back at the chief and says, "Well, why did you?" The chief tries to keep a straight face, but cracks a smile. He says, "You were imitating a police car." The old man looks at the chief and then at the flashing lights on his own car again. He shakes his head and says, "I had no idea. I just bought this car, and I didn't realize the lights were hooked up." The chief isn't buying it, but he's too amused to argue. He lets the old man off with a warning and a few playful jabs. The officers watching from a distance can't help but laugh. Their chief may be retired, but he's still got a sense of humor and a love for practical jokes. As the old man drives away, the chief turns to the officers and says, "Let this be a lesson to you. Never mess with a man who's got a sense of humor and a police scanner." The officers nod their heads in agreement. They have learned their lesson, and they will never forget it. Stories like this one are a great way to bond with other law enforcement officers and share some laughs. It's a way to relieve some of the stress and tension that comes with the job, and remember that there's always room for a good laugh. Who knows? Maybe you'll even learn a thing or two about your fellow officers while you're at it. This story is a humorous tale that has been passed down through generations of law enforcement officers. It's a reminder that even the most respected members of society can be pranked, and that it's important to keep a sense of humor when dealing with difficult situations. If you enjoyed this story, we would appreciate if you could leave us a like and comment below with your thoughts. We also have a lot more amazing stories on our channel, so make sure to check them out. And finally, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future uploads. Thanks for watching.